Have you ever wanted to be able to speak like those people you see on American or British TV and wonder, how do I talk that way? How can I sound more fluent and knowledgeable about what I'm talking about and clearly express my opinions like a native speaker? Hey guys, it's Zane here. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 techniques that politicians and TV experts use when giving presentations and speeches on TV in English. I'll primarily use examples from US politicians, but the techniques that I'm going to go over are applicable in a broad range of situations. These tips will not only make you sound more like a native speaker, but they'll make you sound more like an expert on the topic that you're talking about and help create a connection between you and your audience. The first technique is using opening assertions. This entails having an opener to your speech that sets you up to state facts. So let's imagine you're at a meeting with a client or at some kind of event for your company, and you're about to give a speech or talk in front of a group of people, and you want to state some facts. This is where you can use a type of opening assertion. Former US President Barack Obama was infamous for starting his speeches or his responses with the phrase, "Let me be clear."
Let me be clear about America's intentions. Let me be clear.
Another famous US politician, Bernie Sanders, who you might have seen on TV before. There were many memes of him online sitting there with his mittens watching a speech. Anyway, I've also noticed that Bernie Sanders frequently uses the phrase, "Let me be clear," but he's also known for starting many of his dialogues with the phrase, "Let me say this."
And let me say this.
This opener gives his audience an indication that he's about to make an assertion of some kind, or in other words, he's about to present an argument or an important fact. President Biden, although a bit different from President Obama, has a famous opener of his own. Before telling his audience something important or something that he's going to do, he often starts out by saying, "Look folks," and "Here's the deal." And he sometimes even says them together. "Look folks, here's the deal."
Look folks, I've said many times. Folks, look folks, we're in a situation now, because here's the deal.
By saying "look folks," he's using a more informal opener to seem more relatable with his audience and to get their attention for a point that he's about to make. The same is true with "here's the deal." It's an informal opener that we might use right before we're about to tell someone our plan or something that we're about to do. All in all, opening assertions are an important step in getting your audience's attention and letting them know that you're about to say something. Now, the next technique is acknowledging an opposing argument and using that argument against the other person. Now, you might be wondering, why would I even want to mention an opposing argument at all? In fact, summarizing an opposing argument or another person's opinion can actually be a very powerful tool that you can use to your advantage. For example, in a business context, you might say, "Company executives are prioritizing increasing market share in the domestic market. However, statistics from our marketing team show stronger demand for our products in regional markets." After we summarize the argument or the opinion of the other side, it's important that we use a conjunction like "but" or "however" before we state our opinion. The next technique is using labels in your speeches. This one is probably the hardest to implement because it requires a little bit more specialized knowledge about the topic that you're talking about. However, if you use labels correctly, they can be very powerful. When we talk about any kind of historical or current event, we want to create a label, which is usually a noun, to define what it is. We could use some examples like this. In economics, we haven't seen a meltdown like this since the 2008 financial crisis. In business or geopolitics, we could say, "The semiconductor industry is an asset that has benefited Taiwan both economically and diplomatically." Notice how I'm giving the topics here a specific label, such as meltdown, crisis, or asset. In the case of politics, we could say, "During the 2016 presidential election, Donald Trump claimed that he was going to replace the leadership of all major government departments, who he argued were incompetent and not serving the American people." To describe his plan, in many of his speeches, he used the phrase "drain the swamp," which clearly stuck out in people's memories.
We have begun to drain the swamp of government corruption. Drain the swamp. And that's what we're doing.
By using the word swamp, it was actually a label to describe the people in Washington who were doing not such a good job, according to him.
We are going to Washington, D.C., and we are going to drain the swamp.
Using this label was a very clever and powerful technique that made everybody remember what he said. The fourth technique is using comparisons and contrasts. This technique can easily be used with the second technique on our list, summarizing an opposing argument. Now, regardless if you're for or against one idea or the other, or neither one of them, by comparing, contrasting two different ideas, it sets you up for introducing a third alternative point. For example, a US politician on TV might start out by saying something like this: while Donald Trump claims that there's a crisis at the US border with Mexico, Joe Biden and the Democrats are reforming America's migration policy. This is a good technique for setting up the context or situation of your statement. As a follow-up statement, we could say something like this: but in Europe and Canada, we see continued support for liberal migration policies. And last but not least, the fifth technique is storytelling. Humans are hardwired to remember stories. For thousands of years, histories and cultures were passed down to future generations using stories, particularly for societies without standardized writing systems. Stories also make arguments and opinions more relatable and give them a human face. Stories could be telling something that happened in the past or something that's happening now. For example, in 2016, the UK famously voted to leave the EU, an event which is often referred to as Brexit. The then Member of Parliament and later Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, famously told a story that the UK sent £350 million each week to the EU, which is money that could be spent on the NHS, which is the UK's national healthcare system. Although this statistic was later proven to be inaccurate, the fact that Johnson told it in the form of a story and put it on a big bus had a huge impact on the way that people remembered it. In the US, when Donald Trump was running for president the first time, he often made reference to the old days, when things were supposedly different than they are now. Throughout many of his speeches, he would give hints about how things used to be in the old days.
You see our bridges, we don't build bridges for the most part. You know, in the old days we used to build bridges. You go to China, bridges all over the place. It makes our bridges look like toys. Give me a mirror. But no, in the old days you put the hairspray on, it was good. Today you put the hairspray on, it's good for 12 minutes, right?
This ultimately inspired Donald Trump's famous campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again," with the word "again" referring to the old days that he always referenced in his speeches, which he claimed he was going to bring America back to. Overall, using the techniques that I went over today in this video can help you more naturally express your opinions and help you sound more fluent, knowledgeable, and persuasive in your English presentations and any speech that you give. While some of them, such as using labels, require a bit more specialized knowledge about the topic that you're presenting on, they can all be powerful tools in getting your audience to remember what you said and make you sound like an impactful speaker, much like the politicians and experts you see on TV. Either way, regardless of your political positions, I encourage you to pay close attention the next time you listen to any American or British politician when they're giving a speech, and listen closely for when they use any of these techniques. If you notice anything else that I didn't go over in this video, please feel free to mention it in the comments. Also, if you're interested in further developing your English speaking and presentation skills, I have a specialized English for academic purposes course, which gives students ample opportunity to participate in group discussions and give presentations. We also have a world news course which gives students the opportunity to participate in discussions on current events and trends in business, politics, and society. We discuss a different topic each week. Regardless if you're a student, a business professional, an educator, or a civil servant, I'm sure there will be something there for you. If you're interested to learn more, please check the description below. I hope you found this video useful, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.